Alright, here we have the iNO vent. It is the device used in delivering nitric oxide, and we are going to go through the different components that make up this device at this time. First thing on the front, we have a drain bottle, we have a filter, black screen, controls, a couple of gauges. Okay. On the left side of the device, we have an external O2 cylinder that would be our source of flow, and I'll get into that in a second. Here on the side, we have our manual resuscitation bag set up for when using the iNO vent. Here on the back side, you see we have two nitric oxide cylinders. The way it breaks down is you have a left bank and a right bank, and it's a duplication of services. You have two high pressure hoses for the left side and two for the right side. Also on the back, we have the manual resuscitation bar. We have two snap fittings. We have the O2 line in for the manual resuscitation bagging portion of the system. Under this cover we have three membranes, and those are the membranes for the O2 analyzer, the nitric oxide analyzer, and the nitrogen dioxide analyzer. It's covered. We can't get in there. That would be a service call if there's a problem. The cooling fan, the power cord, the on-off switch. On the right side we just have a hook for hanging supplies off of. Alright, so the first step in using the iNO vent is assembling the flow module, which may or may not be assembled and hanging in a bag alongside. You might have to do this on your own. First you have the flow module, and with that you are to take note on the underside of the module, the direction of flow. There's an arrow there for you. First thing you're going to do is take a 50mm barrel adapter, insert it in the end, and a nipple that you can get from one of two places, out of a non-rebreather or from the drain bag for an aerosol setup. From there I'm going to put in the mixing chamber, and on the end of the mixing chamber, the blue tubing, we have a microcapillary aspiration line that we're going to attach to that. From there we will now assemble the injector module. There are four separate lines that you attach to the device. Each one of them is dedicated. There's very little chance of confusing the lines. First one up will be the microcapillary aspirator line, and that goes on the end like this. From there I'm going to roll it over. Next comes the injector line. It's got a beefy plastic adapter. We'll put it on. Next up is the electronics cable, and with that you line up the red dot with the red dot, line them up and give a push and it'll snap into place. The last line that we will put on is the O2 supply line, and the purpose for that is to supply flow, and that's the only way that the device is going to operate, is when it senses a source of flow. Looking into the flow module, you can now see the hot wire anemometer, and you want to make sure that you do not damage that by running anything down and through there. Okay. Now that we've assembled the injector module, it's time to connect it to the iNO vent and get it ready for use. I'm going to lay this over here on the side, get it out of my way while I connect the 4 different lines. First one up is the injector line, and that gets connected there. Next up is the electronic cable that makes a communication possible between the injector module and the iNO vent itself. And just like with the module itself, you line up the red line on the cable with the red line on the female port and push. You're good to go. Next is the sampling line, and that would go over here. Last up is our source of flow, and that's the oxygen line, and we will connect that to the O2 cylinder on the side of the iNO vent. Alright, with the injector module assembled and connected to the iNO vent, we are ready to power it on. I'm reaching behind the vent now and I'm throwing the power switch on. And what's going to happen now is an internal electronic check to make sure that everything's working well. It could take upwards of a minute. Alright, with that done, we're going to do a couple of quick tests before we can actually use it on a patient. Alright, so now it's time that we connect the gas to the iNO vent. Here we have the cylinder of nitric oxide. It has a safety on the side here to prevent it from being turned on accidentally and us being charged a fee for running the gas. First thing I'm going to do is press down on the safety. Off comes the clip. Next thing I'm going to do is remove the knurled nut from the cylinder. From there I'm taking the high pressure line with the knurled nut fitting, inserting it on and tightening that. So what I've done is connected the cylinder to the pressure gauge with a high pressure hose, and then from there I'm going to connect another high pressure hose with a snap fitting from the pressure gauge to the iNO vent itself. Alright, with our gas source connected to the iNO vent, I'm going to open the cylinder . And with that, my system pressure jumped up. And what I want to do is make sure that my connections are solid and that I don't have a pressure leak. I am now turning the gas cylinder off, and we're going to watch that gauge pressure for a minute or so just to make sure that our connections are tight. If after a minute the gauge pressure were to drop, the only 2 connections that we are concerned with is the knurled nut and the snap fitting. If the pressure were to drop, we would do the process again, making sure that our connections were snug. If the gas pressure continued to leak, it's something internal, it's something the manufacturer needs to deal with, and you should swap out the iNO vent at this time.